What were those first couple days like?
The seller stuck around for 30 minutes. I came back at like 12 and the seller was gone. I got an email from him he just said, "Hey, money hit my account. Everything looks good. You'll be fine." And that was it.
Crazy. Were you like internally freaking out? Like, I have no idea what's happening. Or are you like, oh, I feel good about this. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Both times that I've signed an SBA loan, I wanted to throw up. And hey, if you don't want to vomit sometimes when you're doing something, are you really pushing yourself hard enough?
I guess going back to the first year, tell us about how much you were able to grow the business.
In 2021, the last full year before I bought it, they did about 1.1 million in revenue. We did that in the first 6 months.
Is this everything you sort of expected from buying a business? Now buying multiple.
No.
But as you said, it's been a fun ride, right?
Oh, best thing I've ever done. Yeah, I mean, like marrying my wife, having my daughters, running this business. It's pretty much in that order, man. It's been great.
Hey everyone, it's Helen from SBA Deal Hunter. Today we have JD Beck with us. JD is rolling up plumbing and HVAC businesses in Colorado. He's made 3 acquisitions to date, and he was previously an Army officer as well as worked in the commercial elevator industry. Really looking forward to hearing JD's story. JD, it's great to have you on today.
Thanks, Helen. Happy to be here.
JD, let's start with your background. What were you doing before, operating, plumbing and HVAC businesses? What got you sort of into this space?
Yeah, so I'm from Alabama originally, with the University of Alabama. I was there for Nick Saban's first football game. If you're a college football person, that's exciting. After college, went in the Army, as you mentioned, did that for a little bit, got out, had a career in commercial elevators. So was kind of climbing the corporate ladder. That took me to a few places and was looking for the next thing. And the back of my mind always had the idea of buying a business. I was hoping to maybe stay in corporate America for a little bit longer, but just wasn't finding anything that really fit. And so talked to my wife and decided, hey, let's try to spend our time and our money and our effort here in Colorado. We love the state. And found a business after about an 8-month search. Checked a lot of the boxes. Really small little plumbing company, kind of remote in like a small town in Colorado, and decided to go for it. So wound up buying that and the building that it was in. Spent some time growing that. That's a whole other story as well. And then here we are about 3 years later, after about two more acquisitions. One was smaller, and then one was a pretty sizable deal for us.
Very exciting. When you first, with your first deal, did you always know you were going to buy in this industry? Were you specifically looking, what were some other businesses you were looking at when you decided you want to buy a business?
Yeah, I was pretty agnostic to it. So I was looking at a lot of different stuff. Like I have a pretty good trade management background. It's actually kind of what I did in the Army too. So I had about 15 years of experience doing it. But I looked at a little bit of everything. And it's Colorado, so there's not a whole lot of heavy manufacturing and stuff. It's a lot of service-based businesses. So there was a landscaping company or two. There was this really interesting company that would fix cattle cars. So trailers that would take cows to the slaughterhouse, which honestly is an awesome business if you think about it. You put this 2,000-ton animal that's angry and knows it's about to die in a small metal box and just beats it up, right? So it has to get fixed every time, right? Yeah, it was a really cool business. And then landscaping, and then plumbing and HVAC was always, kind of there. There's a lot of small scale ones, $1 million, $2 million of revenue. That's kind of the line I feel where a lot of guys can they can be the master plumber, lots of experience, and that guy and 2 or 3 of his friends or guys that he just finds, they can make $1 million a year in revenue pretty easily. But then growing from there is a whole nother story. So you see a lot of those things for sale, right? Where this has just been this guy's life's work. He's very happy at $1 million in revenue, and now he's looking to retire. There's tons of businesses like that.
Where were you looking? Was it mostly deals on the market? Were you just reaching out to business owners? How are you finding these
all
deals?
through brokers? Yeah, Trans World Colorado. They have a lot of businesses for sale, and every one of my deals has been through them. And there was another broker here in town that had some really high quality businesses as well, but just never could quite get a deal done with him.
With that first deal, what were some of the things that jumped out at you once you actually, started diving in?
Well, yeah. So like if you're familiar with this industry, one of the things really pushed now is service club memberships, right? Some kind of way to like keep recurring revenue out of your from your customers. This company didn't have service club memberships, but they had a gun safe full of cabin keys, full of people's keys to their houses, like 300 keys. We still have it. And I'm like, man, okay, you're not doing the service club or maintenance contracts or anything like that, but if somebody gave you the key to their house, that's a pretty sticky customer, I'd say. So that kind of thing. And then this one was a bit unique because the owner was very open about the fact he was trying to sell and had been trying to sell for a while. COVID kind of derailed it. Because I think he tried this, I think he started trying to sell it right before COVID happened, like late 2019, early 2020. And actually, two of the employees had tried to purchase it as well. So everybody knew what was happening. The guy was ready to make a deal, and it came with some real estate, which something I'd really recommend for your first deal. It gives you the banks will treat it like a real estate deal at certain ratios. Certain banks have different rules, right? But I was able to get it treated like a real estate deal that came with business assets. So it gave me a 25-year term on the note.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Tell me more about how you diligence the deal. What was your process like? Obviously, you weren't directly in this space, but you mentioned some trade management experience. And what were you doing during that diligence phase? How did you run it?
I don't know that I'm the guy to talk to about due diligence, but I actually had a failed deal, a dead deal, maybe 6 months prior, and honestly, I think it was more valuable than my MBA. So I found this mechanical contractor, and I got him under contract, and we uh, um, we we did the dance for like 6 7 weeks, and I wound up getting a local broker to give me a broker's opinion of value, which was a pretty. I paid like $2,500, and it was a very detailed opinion of the broker of what he thought if it was his listing, what he would list it for, right? And of course, it came back, much less than what the guy was asking for in the deal we had arranged. And so, but just going through that and seeing how the broker thinks about things, the approach he takes, that gives you a lot of insight into the whole world of due diligence. That was very valuable. So that gave me a lot of insight going forward. And then with this deal, one, I would say brokers, they do a good job of some due diligence. You can't trust most brokers, but you can trust some. And they do a good job of it. And as far as the diligence side of things go, confirming their revenue, these are smaller deals, right? So these are not something we're going to go out and get like a true quality of earnings report. The way I like to do it, especially now that I'm in the space, they say that their revenue is X. I go look at the bank deposits. Is it within 95% of X? That's a great smell test just to check, right? And then you can start verifying like their cost of goods sold. You start working your way down that P&L. You're not really buying the balance sheet. There's some stuff they can hide in the balance sheet for sure, but you're not buying the balance sheet in these deals. You're buying a customer list, right? And then verifying that like the customer list matches what they're saying. That was kind of my level of due diligence. Is it right? Probably not, but it worked for me.
And how is thanks for sharing. And now that you're 3 deals in, what are some specific things for someone who maybe doesn't come from the industry? Like what should they be looking for specifically when looking at these deals in plumbing, HVAC, that would make these deals attractive or not?
Yeah, the first thing I would look for is revenue to make sure that the revenue match, like I just said. Second thing I would check for is a complete customer list. And there's a rough value that I ascribe to a customer list, right? So it's going to depend on your experience in the industry, your market, and that kind of stuff. But it's, a few $100s per customer roughly translates to the sale price of the business. And then making sure that customer list has detailed information, right? The first business I bought, it was not super detailed customer records. Like they had emails like 200 out of 1,000. Like it was not the right answer, but it gets you in the door, right? And then I would also check for repeat business, right? So one of the things you can look at if they have good customer records, how often are these people buying from you? Are they buying from you every single year? Are they buying from you multiple times? The third deal that I went through, and it should have shed some light, something I kind of learned the hard way, is that only about 30% of these customers were actually repeat business customers. It's wound up working out fine, but that should give you some insight into the nature of this guy's business. Like, is this just leads that are coming in on the internet? It's a one-time transaction, he moves on, or does he have a 10-year relationship with some of these customers? that should really that should really determine the value of that business.
What should someone be, shooting for? Like, what is considered good in this industry?
Oh, what's considered? I don't know. I'll tell you, like, what I look for is like 60% repeat business. And obviously the more the better,
Yeah.
but we try to get, like, when I look at trying to like build my business now, I think, okay, 60% should be repeat business and the other 40% I'm trying to grab, but I'm also trying to grow it pretty aggressively. So if you have a guy that's not trying to grow it aggressively, 80-90% should be repeat business.
Got it. No, that's interesting. And how did you end up structuring the deal with
All
the seller?
Asset purchases, and they're all through the SBA with various down payments.
And even the deal, you mentioned there's a third deal that was,
oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sorry. So the two big ones that I've done, Mountain Valley and JD's Plumbing, those were standard SBA 10% down deals, right? There is a small deal I did for like a guy's name and a phone number, which actually has been a pretty good lead source for us. That was all seller financed. I gave him like 20% down or something.
Got it. Interesting. And how was the SBA process for you? You've been through it a couple times now, so tell us about that.
Yeah, the first one was very painful. The second one was very easy. That's one thing I would tell people is that, like, just getting in and proving that you can service the debt for a year, these banks get a lot more excited about lending to you. So the first one, yeah, it was a very painful process. And I had nothing to compare it to, so I don't know. I kind of thought that was normal and to be expected, but let's say that one was 100 units of pain. The second one was like 10 units of pain.
Wow.
It was so easy. In fact, I even remember like, because like at the time, whole another topic of conversation, like my financials were kind of a mess, right? When I found the JD's deal, the third deal. And I was talking to the bank. I feel like, yeah, just, kind of get some good financials, run it by us. We'll do a cash flow. And so it took about a month. We had some cleanup done and I sent it off to the bank, the whole thing packaged up. It was like an hour and they came back and said, yeah, we'll do the deal. And I'm like, are you sure?
Wow.
Like, are you sure you want to do this? They said, yeah, we'll do it. So, good or bad, we're only about a year and a half into it, but it's gone well. It's been a good deal for us.
No, that's great. That's super interesting. And how did you, one of the things I think a lot of people run into with these trades businesses is not knowing how to manage licenses or like handle that transfer of licenses, especially if they're not a master plumber, for example.
Sure.
How did you deal with that? And how are some ways that people are dealing with this issue?
It's going to be different zip code by zip code, state by state. So in Colorado, I can speak to Colorado. So we do plumbing and we do HVAC. The easy one is HVAC. For that, like for the HVAC side of the business, I hold all of our licenses. It was a test I went and took online, or I went and took like one of like the ICC code test. I studied for it for like 4 days. I've had to do one or two more since because they wanted just various other tests in like random jurisdictions. But yeah, it's a test. It's an open book test. You study for it. You buy the study guide. You take it. If you have some experience in the building trades, it's not hard. I think if you were coming from like insurance sales, it would be a challenging thing to pull off. But if you've got a background in construction or trades management, or you're a handy guy or whatever, it shouldn't be a problem to go take the ICC Master Mechanical. It was very straightforward. The plumbing one's a bit more nuanced. So here in Colorado, plumbing's handled by the state, and there's two ways to get a state plumbing license. You can be a master plumber or you can employ a master plumber. And a master plumber license is like a 5-year thing, and it's a pretty challenging test. There are a lot of them out there, but you do want to find a guy that fits. So fun fact, when I bought Mountain Valley, there was an employee there that had the master's license. It was kind of part of the deal. He was gonna hold this license. Well, we had a little agreement signed, and it was absolute like breach of contract from day zero. Wound up not working basically. So about 3 months in, through a series of events, wound up kind of realizing, hey, I need to change this. So actually, just found a guy on Craigslist. It wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't really that hard. His name's Mike. He was a great guy, and me and the original guy, we parted ways unceremoniously, and I brought in Mike. Mike worked out very well for about think like almost a year, 6 or 8 months. And then another one of the employees went and took the test, and he held the job for about a year. And then recently, like the company grows, right? It's one of the challenges, like if you buy one of these businesses and you're going to grow it tremendously, like the employees that worked at level A of revenue may not work at level B as you grow. And that became the case with my, I guess, third master plumber. Great guy, but even he admitted like he was not well suited for what the company had become. And so wound up, parting ways much more amicably than the first guy. And I got a new guy in here named Eric, and he's been an absolute, really actually funny story. I was really considering shutting down my plumbing department. It was doing so poorly, and I brought Eric in, and it's just taken off. So finding the right guy to run these departments and run these lines of businesses is key, and they hold your licenses too.
No, that's super interesting. And with that first deal, what did it look like when obviously first acquisition, probably in some ways always the hardest. You don't know don't know what to expect, but what did it look like when you closed? What was the sort of negotiation or the transition you had negotiated with the seller? What were those first couple of days like?
The seller stuck around for 30 minutes. It was like 30 minutes. Like I met him, we shook hands, he handed me the keys. I said, okay. Like one of the things I'm really big on is I like to like ride with technicians, especially new, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hop in the truck with this guy and go ride around with him for a day. I came back at like 12 and seller was gone. And I got an email from him like either that night or the next. I think it was that night, and like he just said, "Hey, money hit my account. Everything looks good. You'll be fine." And that was it.
That is hilarious.
Oh man, yeah. There were some problems later on, but we got through it. But honestly, I kind of think it was for the best. Because the company changed so much, it was time for just some new leadership. But the seller did not stick around for very long. The 30 minutes, 4 hours, I guess, to be more specific. But yeah, it was about 4 hours. And yeah, it was me. We were going. The first year was kind of exciting. Can we talk about the first year of business ownership, or?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm curious first, just like, okay, first off, that is crazy. 30 minutes to 4 hours. I mean, either way, that's crazy. Were you internally freaking out? Like, I have no idea what's happening. Or are you like, oh, I feel good about this. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Both times that I've signed an SBA loan, I wanted to throw up at least for like a day, right? Yeah, it's normal. Like, hey, if you don't want to vomit sometimes when you're doing something, are you really pushing yourself hard enough? Like, yeah.
Love that.
So yeah, no, it's challenging, but I don't know. It worked out. It was fine.
And at what point did you feel like, well, I have a good grasp of this business? Because you grew the business quite a bit that first year, which we'll talk about right after this.
Hey, quick break from the episode. If you're serious about buying a small business in the next 6 to 12 months, check out our business buying accelerator, SMB Deal Hunter Pro. We source deals both on and off market, catered exactly to your criteria. We give you one-on-one support with M&A advisors to help you review deals, structure offers, and negotiate with sellers. On top of that, we help you secure financing so you can buy a 7-figure business with as little as $50 to $100K down. In the past year alone, we've helped our members close over $60 million in deals. Some escaped their 9-to-5s and avoided layoffs. Others added to their growing portfolios. If you want to be next, head to pro.smbdealhunter.xyz to apply. The link's also in the description below. All right, back to the episode.
But, at what point were you like, okay, I'm going from like knowing no idea what I'm doing to like, okay, I know I have a handle on this business and I'm ready to really start growing, accelerating?
I don't think I have a handle on it right now. No, it took a while, man. Like, because it was yeah, because we've grown so much, and every time you hit a new stage of growth, you really feel out of your depth every time you do it, right? So, the way the first year looked was really interesting. So we were just in Estes Park, which small town, it's about 6,000 homes, which is not a huge market at all. We had about 6 technicians, and this was run old school plumbing style, right? So pen and paper. No inventory on trucks. There's no technology. We would send we would send out invoices in QuickBooks. Like it was terrible. Like the guys would like fill out their tickets. We built time and material, so they just billed hourly, and like whatever material they use, they would come back, put their tickets in this little bin, and then come back, and they just took whatever job they felt like taking. Like there was no dispatching process, there was no organization whatsoever. And uh so I kind of like let it run for the first like 2 or 3 months, just kind of went with the flow, right? Let's see what happens. And I had some very competent, for the size of business, I had some very competent people in the business at that time, people who knew it well, right? And so I just kind of like leaned on them, ran it the way things have been going. But about 6 months in, I was like, all right, we've got to, I can't live like this. One, it was a 90-minute commute from my house one way. So I'm driving up there every day and then living this life. And so about 6 months in, we made some changes. We brought in like some real software, a software suite called Service Titan, which I would strongly recommend. If not Service Titan, look at Jobber or House Call Pro, one of like the big 3 or 4 in the industry. It's a game changer, but it's a really big lift, especially if you don't really know what you're getting into. There's consultants, and if you've got like the room and the business profits to pay for a consultant, I would recommend just doing that, because I did it the hard way, and it was ugly and unwell thought out for like a year. And then we also went from that time material billing model to a flat rate model where you'd walk in, you give the customer some options, you try to upsell them and stuff like that. So it was that's a transition in of itself, much less doing it in like Estes Park. And then we wound up moving from Estes Park down to Loveland, which is a more like regular sized town. And it opened up the market from there, and it's just been growing.
And how far are you from there now? Are you still commuting 90 minutes one way?
No, I'm not. We actually moved yet again to a town called Longmont. Whenever I did the acquisition in Denver, Longmont's a much more central location. And that just made a lot more sense. We got a 4,000 square foot shop down here, and we saw the Estes shop, but it's like a break room extra location now kind of thing.
Got it. No, glad to hear that. Good for you. I'm curious. One thing that came to mind, I would love to learn more about the first year, but did you feel any resentment from any of the employees who I know had like previously spoken to owner about buying the business? What was that like?
Oh yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, like one of the employees that was trying to buy it, she was crying on the first day. Like yeah, there was a lot of resentment there for sure. And especially coming in and changing things as much too. Like they had all kind of had this little life that they enjoyed, but it really wasn't much of a business.
And how did you manage to retain them, or what was retention like?
Retention was 0. Yeah. So whenever I made all those changes, let's see here. So we had 6 original employees who fought every change I wanted to make. Like I raised prices like 3 months in, like just raised our hourly rate a little bit. The only people that complained were employees. It was kind of fun. No customer complained about it, but yeah, we wound up. They actually all told me that or several of them told me that if I did the Service Titan thing, they would quit. And it was that kind of a situation. So they quit, or they got fired or whatever. Whenever we did the flat rate model, we also kind of changed pay scales and pay plans greatly to their benefit, but it's a lot more commission based and like performance based. And yeah, of those 6 original employees, only 2 stuck around. One guy wound up coming back. He did like a 6-month break and he came back. But yeah, it was, significant turnover for sure. And I would tell you, you should probably expect it if you're buying a business of this scale. You're going to have significant turnover. And it's not the end of the world. You'll be fine. Learn how to recruit. It works out okay. That was actually like the main reason we left Estes Park, is that it was impossible to recruit people in that town.
Interesting. I was going to say any sort of recruiting tips. One of the things people talk about, and I think one of the worries people have when buying a trades business is, how am I going to find skilled technicians? Have you any sort of tips or secrets there?
Pay above average and provide a good place to work. Our pay plan now is very performance driven. So guys that do well and perform well, they'll make well into the six figures, like I've got a guy that made, like 120 last year and he worked like 10 months. I mean, it's that kind of thing. Like his wife had a kid, he had to take some time off. It's yeah, and like to be able to pay like that, you have to create that kind of value as well, which means you have to have customers who are willing to pay that kind of money because you provide that level of service. So paying above average and just providing a great place to work are the two key things. And then there's kind of an art to actually posting these job ads and recruiting and running through the right guys. You just kind of learn the hard way, of like people will apply for your jobs who are absolutely awful technicians, and you'll get them in here and you figure it out pretty quick, and then you kind of know like what to look for on these resumes. But it is a lot easier to hire now too. The economy has kind of cooled off a little bit, at least here, which has made like I've been getting a lot better candidates for all of my job postings. So it's I don't know, you learn the hard way, I guess. Try to find a way to pay above average, find ways to create performance pay, and you'll find some really good people if you can create performance pay, but it takes time.
I'm glad to hear you figure it out successfully. I guess going back to the first year, tell us about how much you're able to grow the business. There's a lot of people that go in year one, they're completely just under the water. Usually a lot of people see this J curve, like some decline. You were able to grow the business. So tell us, what were some of the key things you implemented that actually, grew revenues, and how much were you able to grow revenues, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. So in 2021, the first, like the last full year before I bought it, they did about 1.1 million in revenue. We did that in the first 6 months. So what is that? What generally speaking, you got to figure that these sellers are not super engaged, right? And like the guy that sold to me, Gary, he's a great guy, but he was in his 70s, wasn't in great health, and he was very open about the fact he wanted to leave. And I think you'll find a lot of sellers are like that, and which means they have not aggressively run the business for the last however many years. And hey, I hope to do that one day myself, maybe. But yeah, so these sellers have not like aggressively run these businesses, and so just showing up, right? So one of the things like in this industry that really can drive revenue is pushing customers to replace equipment versus just trying to fix it. And the old regime, I guess, like the last seller, like they were all about fixing equipment, and this would be stuff that was 30, 40, sometimes 50 years old, right? Had no business being fixed. And so we just kind of came in and more aggressively pushed the replacement thing, and then also pushing the pace of work too. So whenever I first got in there, we would do like anybody that knows this industry is going to laugh at these numbers, but we would take a week to change out a furnace. We would take 1 or 2 to change out a boiler. Now we do it in a day, sometimes 2 a day, right? And so I came in and we started selling this equipment. I was bidding it pretty aggressively. We were getting a lot of work in the door. And then we were having to try to get the labor to pick up the pace to actually put this stuff in, which 1 week for a furnace is absurd looking back at it now. But at the time I was like, what is taking so long to do this? So I came in, I started selling equipment pretty aggressively. We did have one very good job that the seller had actually been chasing for a year or two, and it wound up coming through like 2 months into my ownership. And it was about $120,000. And then it had a long lead time as well. Like, so we required like half down. Actually, I asked for 60% down, and then it had like an 8-week lead time or 10 weeks, something like that. So I got to sit on $60,000 for that, and then plus the vendor term. So great for working capital, great for revenue, and then we got it all closed out and billed at the end of the year. So just showing up and looking for revenue honestly, that's true at every stage of the business. I'm laughing at myself now because I'm thinking about the same things, at $5 million. So it's you show up, you push for revenue, you'll find it. It's there.
And what did your day-to-day look like that first year? How has it evolved since?
It was awful. It was awful. And yeah, like anybody that's considering this, like it's not for the weak or the faint of heart, man. It was awful. So what I would leave my house at like 5:30 in the morning. I'd get up there at around 7:30, and then trying to just deal with these employees. I mean, most of these employees I wouldn't even consider at this point. So like the level of employee we had was not very good. And so trying to get them to jobs and get these things sorted and then figure out how calls are being taken in and, hey, maybe we could do this way or that way. Just learning like all the little challenges we had, and then going and bidding some jobs and that kind of thing too. So it was that. We would shut down around 4 o'clock. And then I would usually leave at around 4:30, drive back to Denver, hit the gym or something, and then I'd be home at around 7:30, and pass out and do it again the next day. There's some long weeks looking back at it. I would not say by any means did I expertly do this. You could do a much better job than me, but I got through it.
And how long was that? How long did that take before you felt like you got through that initial grind?
Yeah. So those first 6 months, and then we rolled all those changes. So I would say it was about a year. About a year into it, I felt pretty comfortable with what I was doing. We wound up moving a little bit closer, so my drive got a lot better. And then, yeah, about a year in, I felt pretty comfortable. That's whenever we did the second acquisition. Well, the third, like the JD's. So I bought this company, believe it or not, called JD's Plumbing out of Denver.
I was gonna ask earlier.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I saw the listing, I was like, well, I guess I have to do this, right? And that deal closed at the end of September in 23. And by then I felt pretty confident with what I was doing. Even that acquisition wasn't smoothly executed, but we got through it, and we added revenue to the bottom line and definitely added some EBITDA as well. So I mean, it all worked out pretty well. But every year you get that much better is the one thing I would say. So I feel like that as much better as I got in the first year, I also got that much better in the second year and the third year. So the learning curve is steep and painful, but when you're on top of it, it feels pretty good.
That's great. At what point were you thinking about that second acquisition? Because you were working these crazy hours. Did you always know that you were going to make additional acquisitions? They kind of just hit your desk? Like what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, I always keep an eye on them, and like brokers kind of got to know me, and I kind of developed a team of like 2 or 3 brokers that I was willing to work with. The rest can all pound rocks. They're all pretty awful, but there are 2 or 3 brokers here in Denver that I really liked, and actually, yeah, I was looking at acquisitions from about day one.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, there was this this appliance company, and I've got a soft spot for kind of like distressed businesses, and there was an appliance company that I looked at, and I'm like, oh, maybe I could, and I was like, no, don't do it. Just run this company right now. You'll be fine. But yeah, like the JD's deal came across my desk like that would have been like spring of 23. So, I mean, and then it became pretty apparent like the biggest challenge I had with Mountain Valley was geography. Like that service base all being in that one small town really limits growth. In fact, I made a good friend who bought a company up at Estes as well about 6 months prior, and he actually wound up selling his business because he saw how hard this guy's smarter than me. He saw how hard it was going to be to grow the company that he had because it was in Estes, right? And he realized how difficult it was going to be, so he sold it. I saw how difficult it was going to be and said, I can do it, and here I am. But so we made the move out of Estes, and whenever I saw companies that were available for sale that would expand that service area, well, it was the kind of thing I would chase.
That makes sense. I'm curious, at this point, how much of your growth has been from acquisitions versus growing organically, and what's your kind of perspective on that?
Yes, by the numbers. So 4.6 million in total revenue last year. Of that, Mountain Valley was about 1.1 in revenue. JD's was about the same, about 1.3, a little bit more. And then the like name and a phone number was nothing, rarely just name and a phone number, good GMV profile. So that's what, 2.4 million in revenue. So half of it's acquisitions, half of it's growth.
Wow, that's great. And what are you focused on more, or are you just chasing both? What's your perspective
growth right now? Yeah, I mean, I do look at companies as they come across, and I would consider an acquisition if the right one showed up. In fact, I'm kind of looking at one right now.
We know you're always looking.
We're always looking. Yeah, actually, no, like there was a company I was looking at semi recently, and another one. The problem I'm seeing is if I did another acquisition, it would be in a market that's going to take a lot of work to commute to, right? And so I was looking at one, it's about 2 hours away, and I'm like, yeah, I don't, is that really worth my time? And honestly, like once you get to a certain size in these businesses, it's almost cheaper just to acquire customers versus buying them. Like there's better financing terms for buying them, but I mean, I can I can grow through advertising at about $200 a customer. And whereas buying, you've also got to buy all their vehicles and all the other stuff too. And it's like most of the vehicles I've bought have not been worth buying either. So, I'm focused on trying to grow through advertising at this point. But again, if the right deal comes across, the right deal comes across.
No, that makes sense. Are you running the advertising yourself since
Yeah,
that's
that's a mistake. I'm doing it, but I wouldn't recommend it. But like that's been kind of like a last 6 months thing, trying to find the right way to market, because marketing in this industry is very challenging.
yeah, I'm sure. What have you learned in terms of, running paid advertising in the industry? Like, do you see a lot of competition from other sort of like private equity backed folks? Like, what are you sort of
Yeah.
seeing?
Yeah, I mean, so my opinion and $7 will buy you an ice cream at Cold Stone, because my opinion's worth about that. $0. But here's what I have learned, or what I think I've learned. I think that the private equity guys, they have some very deep pockets, and they have shown a willingness to dump money into marketing, to bid marketing up. And honestly, at the cost of EBITDA, like they will take all the money they've got and put into marketing just to grow a revenue base, and then either try to like run that thing for a year or two, stabilize it, and then sell it, or even then, like a customer base has a certain value to another buyer, right? And so for them, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they have got to be paying $800 to $1,000 for a lead. I don't know. I don't know any of them. They haven't invited me to any of their parties, but it seems like that they are paying very high dollar for leads, and they're dumping a lot of money into digital marketing. So my thought right now, and granted, this thought is maybe 2 months old, so take it for what it's worth, but my thought is, why try to beat them at their own game? Try to beat them where they're not, right? And so we're trying to do a lot more outbound calling. We're trying to do a lot more cold calling. I'm even spinning up like a door-to-door campaign here in the near future. And then trying to get my cost per lead to like $100, something like that, which is a much more palatable cost for someone like me. If I can do that with any success, then we can grow this thing. If not, then I don't know, one of you guys that wants to spend $1,000 for a lead, come pay me 10 times EBITDA and you can have it, right? I guess I don't know, man. There's got to be a way to get some customers, because growth, you can only grow so much through word of mouth. Like you can grow a lot through word of mouth, but you only can grow so fast. And so if you really want to grow these companies aggressively, you have to find some kind of marketing scheme that makes sense.
I'm sure you get hit up a lot by the private equity guys too, I'm guessing.
They're out there. Yeah. I mean, we talked to them. A lot of them have some really great insight, for sure. But uh, we'll see. It's a different business model with some of them too. Like they all seem to have very different, each one kind of thinks differently. Like some want to do roll-ups and keep your brand around. Others, want to tuck you in. Others are absolute cutthroat, like get the highest average ticket you possibly can and sell this thing to the next guy in 2 to 3 years. So I don't know, different businesses, different schemes.
I'm curious with you, how have you been integrating these additional acquisitions? I know one of them you kind of just bought the phone book, if you will, but maybe with the second acquisition, how did you integrate it into the current one? Did you keep them separate, like 2 different locations? How are you splitting your time? Tell me more about that.
We did keep them separate at first. Like they were guys that wore JD shirts, drove JD's vans. They were guys that wore Mountain Valley shirts, drove Mountain Valley vans. And then over time, we merged it into the Mountain Valley brand. So the brand that was the largest stayed around. The smallest one kind of went away. We still have the JD's website and the JD's phone numbers, but it says at the top, powered by Mountain Valley. And then the minute somebody calls in, we explain, no, Mountain Valley bought JD's, you'll get a Mountain Valley technician. But it took about a year to slowly integrate it.
You picked the Mountain Valley name, not your own.
The brand was stronger. So like the JD's brand was doing about $1 million a year in revenue, whereas at that time Mountain Valley was doing about 3.7. So it just made sense to stick with the stronger brand.
And how did the technicians all take it when you were integrating both of these under one umbrella?
Honestly, now that's a very interesting question because both times I've had the most challenge with like office staff, not with the technician. The technician wouldn't care. And in fact, our pay plan is very aggressive and very lucrative. So the right technicians can make very, very good money working for me. And so most of the technicians that are really good figured that out. The ones that were bad kind of self-selected and went somewhere else. But the office staff have been interesting because they had this like really interesting sense of ownership, which is a good thing. You want to foster it, but whenever you come in and like start changing things up, like they get very resistant to it.
Interesting. Were you able to consolidate any of these back office types of resources?
No. It wound up. I tried. I tried pretty hard, and then it was a culture clash. Honestly, it didn't wind up working out.
Got it. Interesting. I'm curious with, next phase of the business, what are you focused on? You mentioned you're growing through maybe more aggressive advertising. What's your plan? Is it you want to eventually sell this whole thing? You mentioned maybe being a little more hands off. What does the future hold?
Yeah, I think for anybody that buys businesses like this, there's kind of three exits, right? Because if you're a businessman, you got to think about how you're going to exit this thing. So there's three ways to do it that I can see. One is, obviously a sale, just a flat out sale, you run off in the sunset. At the other end of that spectrum is you find a way to reduce your risk so much that you're comfortable stepping back, like whether that's debt service or liability with technicians, whatever your risk is. For me, it's debt service and liability, but for somebody else, who knows, right? You reduce that risk so much, you feel comfortable enough putting competent managers in place, and you can kind of step back and spend less time in this business and look at other things, or I don't know, pick up a hobby, I guess, I don't know. And then there's kind of the middle ground of like you sell to some group and then you roll equity into their thing, right? So those are the three ways to exit. I don't know how I'm going to exit yet. I haven't really thought about that, or I have thought about it, but I haven't quite figured it out. I think my company needs to grow a lot more before there's really like consideration of an exit. We kind of have that 10 million of revenue at 15% EBITDA. So if I could hit 10 million of revenue, 1.5 million EBITDA, like that's a good business in my opinion. We're about halfway there, so growing to that level, my debt service is much smaller as a percentage. Maybe I could take a step back and focus on other things. But even then, like as the company's grown, I've been able to find very good lead technicians to run like the HVAC department and the plumbing department. So my daily involvement with customers and service calls has dialed back significantly. And I've been able to focus on growing the company and business process stuff, right? Like I just hired a controller. That's been really cool. I'm not doing my own financials anymore, stuff like that. So there is a path here, but that path, like my future is $10 million, 15% EBITDA. That's where we got to get.
That's very exciting. I'm curious, looking back on the couple acquisitions you've already made, anything that you would have done differently that might have accelerated some of the growth or reduced some of the pain that someone coming into this you feel could benefit from knowing?
Yeah, I mean, reducing the pain, I don't know if that's possible. Because this industry is a really challenging one to buy into, because you either have to buy something that's small like I bought, and that comes with pain if you want to grow it, or you go buy something very large, but your multiples get much more challenging for someone that's just trying to get into it, right? Like I would not encourage anyone to go spend 4x EBITDA or 5x EBITDA on a $5 million a year plumbing and HVAC company. That is a challenging nut to crack. If you find an investor or something like that, great. But companies of that size and that scale really need like experienced people to operate them. They're challenging. To reduce things I wish I had done differently. Man, I don't know. I don't know that I would be able to do anything different or would even recommend to do anything different. Like for people that are considering like the ETA space, just find a business and get into it is my advice. There's a lot to be said for just getting in the game. Find a business that you can tolerate the debt service, you feel very comfortable with it. Or if you're paying cash, good for you, right? But find something where like you can manage the risk profile and you're comfortable with it, and just go do it. because doors start to open up, man. Like they really do. Like if I went bankrupt tomorrow, I would be so happy with like the past 3 years of my life. They've been amazing. Like the people you meet, the things you get to do, the challenges you get to overcome, it's remarkable. So would I change the pain that I went through? No, it was probably necessary. Is there a better way to have done it? I think my third deal was a bit overpriced, but we needed the market, so we did it. That's about all I really say. Oh, actually, I will give you one thing that I wish I'd done differently. I do try to tell everybody this. Understand your financials and your financial reporting process first before you do any operational changes. Don't change your pricing model, your business model, your marketing, anything. You should dive in and learn your financials first. We're business owners, we're business people in this, and that's the one thing you can't like hire somebody else to do for you. So I took about a year before I really understood like how things moved through my P&L and my balance sheet and my statement of cash flows. And that's a mistake. You should learn that from like day one. And I would recommend doing your own books and just learning QuickBooks, whatever accounting software you're doing. Find yourself a good tax attorney or a good tax accountant who will help you with it, but then learn QuickBooks and do it yourself. Because then it makes it so much easier to outsource to an accountant or a bookkeeper or something else. You actually know what you're talking about.
It just forces you to understand.
Oh, it sucked. Yeah. No, I sat in my office for like 2 weeks straight. It's like, all right, QuickBooks. And then like there's a service time integration too that you have to figure out. Like it was awful. It's not my background. I mean, I've got an MBA, so I knew enough to be dangerous, but no, this is not what I wanted to be doing. But like now I really understand how the financial statements are built. I can look at it like my first accountant like gave me some financials. And I'm like, I don't know how this works, but there's no effing way that's correct. So yeah, I no, you've got to know how this stuff works.
I'm curious, I don't want to be sensitive of time, but was this, looking back a couple years ago when you were still working in corporate in the elevator industry, anything that was this expected, where you are now? Is this everything you sort of expected from buying a business, now buying multiple?
No. No, I thought I'd be able to buy a business and like just kind of run it passively or something like that for a while. But no, these businesses are not passive. Anything that you're buying at this size, it is not going to be a passive business. You need to plan to like you're buying yourself a job. And honestly, you're probably buying yourself a job if you buy something that does 20 million a year in revenue. Like there's no way you're not. This notion of it being like a passive investment, I've never met somebody that's pulled that off. So real estate's kind of passive, I guess, but even that takes a lot of work. So just get into this thing and be prepared to work your ass off for a few years.
But as you said, it's been a fun ride, right?
Oh, best thing I've ever done. Yeah, I mean, like marrying my wife, having my daughters, running this business. It's pretty much in that order, man. It's been great.
I absolutely love that. Anything else? Any final words of wisdom, especially for those first-time buyers out here listening?
It's not going to go the way you think, and it's not for the weak or the faint of heart. Just be prepared. It's I've wanted to vomit more than once, just from the stress of all this stuff, and you'll lose a lot of sleep, but it's a lot more fun than anything you would find in corporate America. And you have the chance to make like true family tree changing money.
Love that. That's great advice, JD. Okay, actual final question. If people want to reach out after listening to this, where can they find you?
Hey, yeah, best place is on X. My handle is @DirtyHandsOps, which sounded really cool when I got it. Now I feel like it sounds, I don't know, stupid, but there it is. Yeah, just DM me or get me on there. I'm pretty active.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone go give JD a follow and reach out if you have any additional questions. But JD, thank you so much for your time today on this lovely Friday afternoon. And yeah. I'm excited to keep following along and see where this journey takes you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Helen. Thanks for the invite. It was fun. It's always good.